Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am blooming as a flower. I am fresh as the dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water reflecting what is real, what is true. And I feel this space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free.
Since I was a little child. With my first breath, I heard your call and began to look for you, Blessed One. I've walked so many perilous paths, confronted so many dangers, endured despair, fear, hopes, and memories. I've trekked to the farthest regions, immense and wild, sailed the vast oceans, traversed the highest summits, lost among the clouds. I've lain dead, utterly alone, on the sands of ancient deserts. I've held in my heart so many tears of stone. Blessed One, I've dreamed of drinking dewdrops that sparkle with the light of far-off galaxies. I've left footprints on celestial mountains and screamed from the depths of a BC hell, exhausted, crazed with despair, because I was so hungry, so thirsty. For millions of lifetimes I've longed to see you, but didn't know where to look. Yet I've always felt your presence with a mysterious certainty. I know that for thousands of lifetimes, you and I have been one, and the distance between us is only a flash of thought. Just yesterday, while walking alone, I saw the old path strewn with autumn leaves and the brilliant moon hanging over the gate. Suddenly appeared like the image of an old friend, and all the stars confirmed that you were there. All night, the rain of compassion continued to fall, while lightning flashed through my window and a great storm arose, as if the earth and sky were in a battle. Finally, in me, the rain stopped, the clouds parted. The moon returned, shining peacefully, calming earth and sky. Looking into the mirror of the moon, suddenly I saw myself, and I saw you, smiling, Blessed One. How strange. The moon of freedom has returned to me, everything I thought I had lost. From that moment on, and in each moment that followed, I saw that nothing had gone. There is nothing that should be restored. Every flower, every stone, and every leaf recognize me. Wherever I turn, I see you smiling, the smile of no birth and no death, the smile I received while looking at the mirror of the moon. I see you sitting there, solid as Mount Meru, calm as my own breath, sitting as though no raging firestorm ever occurred, sitting in complete peace and in freedom. At last I have found you, Blessed One, and I have found myself. There I sit. The deep blue sky, the snow-capped mountains painted against the horizon, and the shining red sun sing with joy. You, Blessed One, are my first love, the love that is always present, always pure and freshly new. And I shall never need a love that will be called last. You are the source of well-being, flowing through numberless troubled lives. The water from your spiritual stream, always pure as it was in the beginning. You are the source of peace, solidity, and inner freedom. You are the Buddha, the Tathagata. With my own one-pointed mind, I vow to nourish your solidity and freedom in myself, so I can offer solidity and freedom to countless others, now and forever.
Con đã đi tìm Thế Tôn từ hồi còn ấu thơ. Con đã nghe tiếng gọi của Thế Tôn từ khi mới bắt đầu biết thở. Con đã duỗi rong vạn nẻo đời hiểm trở, đã từng đau khắc khoái với trăm thương ngàn nhớ trên bước đường Hanh. Con đã đi tìm Thế Tôn trong tận cùng hoang dã, ngoài mênh mông con biết
sườn. Thế Tôn với con đã từng là một, rằng khoảng cách giữa hai ta không thể dài hơn quá một nhịp tâm đầu. Chiều hôm qua bước đi một mình, con thấy lá thu rơi đầy lối cũ, và vầng trăng treo trước ngõ đã xuất hiện bất thần như bóng hình người cũ. Rồi tình đâu xôn xao báo tin là Thế Tôn đang có mặt nơi này. Suốt đêm qua trời đang mưa cam lồ, chợt lẻ qua cửa sổ trời lên cơn bão tố. Đất trời như giận dữ, nhưng cuối cùng trong con mưa cũng tạnh, mây cũng tan. Nhìn ra cửa sổ con thấy vầng trăng khuya đã hiện, và đất trời đã thực sự bình an. Tự soi mình trong gương nguyện con thấy con, và con bỗng thấy Thế Tôn. Thế Tôn đang mỉm cười.
Ô hay vầng trăng thánh thơi vừa trả lại cho con tất cả những gì con ngờ rằng đã mất. Từ khoảnh cánh ấy từng phút giây miên man, con thấy không có gì đã qua, không có gì cần hồi phục. Bông hoa nào, hạt sỏi nào, ngọn lá nào cũng nhìn con nhận mặt. Nhìn đâu con cũng thấy nụ cười Thế Tôn, nụ cười của công sinh không diệt đã nhận được từ gương ngát. Con đã nhìn thấy Thế Tôn, Thế Tôn ngồi đó vững như núi Tu Di, bình an như hơi thở. Thế Tôn ngồi đó như chưa bao giờ
Good morning, dear friends. Today is June the 18th, the year 2006, and we are in our Hamlet of Plum village in our 21-day retreat, the breath of the Buddha. For those of you who read Chinese, there is a revised version of both sutras that will be available. While doing the work of translation, I was able to detect the missing of a number of words. And basing on the structure of the sutra, I was able to restore a few dozens of words that were missing during the 1,500 years of transmission, because the sutra was translated during the 5th century, and they have been recopied and recopied several times. The Buddha was an excellent Sangha builder. And the Sangha could be considered to be a masterpiece of the Buddha. You might be motivated to do like Buddha, to build a Sangha. It takes a lot of heart, a lot of energy, a lot of love, a lot to build a Sangha. When the Buddha was 80, he met King Prasanajit for the last time. At that time, the Buddha enjoyed going around in many countries with his disciples. And the king, who was one of his closest friends, who wanted to imitate that also. They were both 80. So the king wanted to take time to enjoy going around his kingdom. And in the northern part of the kingdom, they met each other for the last time. And it was reported in a sutra that the king praised the Buddha in several ways. And one of the things he said is, teacher, when I see the Sangha moving around, every time I see the Sangha moving around, I have more trust and respect and love for you. So you see the artist better when you see the work. When you see the masterpiece, you see better the author. When I was a young monk, I had that dream also to build a lovely Sangha. A Sangha where there is brotherhood, sisterhood, joy, and so on. So it's true that one of my deepest desires is to build a Sangha. A Sangha can be protecting, nourishing. A Sangha can be the masterpiece of your life. So for those of you who are trying to build a Sangha, you may look again and see that that may be the most noble task of your life. The Buddha is continued in many ways. His love, his insight, his strength, his courage was continued in many ways. And the Sangha is one form of his continuation. And we all care about our continuation. We want to be beautifully continued, and Sangha building is one of the ways to continue beautifully. And a good Sangha, a beautiful Sangha, always carries with her the true Dharma, the authentic Dharma, and the authentic Buddha. Buddha not as a concept, as a notion, but the Buddha as the energy of mindfulness, insight, concentration, and so on. In Buddhism, we speak of the fourfold Sangha: lay monastic, male monastic, female monastics, laymen and laywomen. And it's possible that the fourfold Sangha can learn and profit from each other. The original idea of Sangha is based on the 6 harmonies, 6 kind of concords. And the first element is living together. Living together in one place. And that's why many of our lay friends have been thinking about lay residential sanghas. Many individuals live together. Many single people live together. Many families regroup and live together. So, thân hòa đồng trú. Thân hòa đồng trú is the first element of concord, of harmony. Because if we live together, it's very easy. We can be in permanent communication. We communicate not only with words, but our way of looking, listening, working together. So the first is thân hòa đồng trú. We stay together in one place. In fact, during the winter retreat or the summer rain retreat, a boundary is set up in order to determine what is the place of the Sangha. So during that 90 days of retreat, no one will step out of the boundaries. That has been a tradition for 2,600 years. And if you have something to do outside, you should get the permission of the Sangha in order to go. You go not as individuals, but you go as a representative of the Sangha. Sure. So when they touch you, they touch the Sangha. What you say, what you do is what the Sangha say and does at the same time. And that is the spirit. Sangha is community. And it may be understood that the place we live together may be a neighborhood or a town. Loosely understood. Not just a compound, a campus, but a neighborhood. So, like in London, our friends have set up something like 10 sanghas. And among them, the heart of London Sangha. Because London is such a huge city and one Sangha is not enough. It's very difficult to go from one place to another, it's so far. So we should set up more Sanghas. we should arrange so that we can in touch with each other as much as possible, because the idea is to be together, the Sangha, to be together physically, not only spiritually, but physically also. It's very important. And the second bond that bring us together is Shila, the precepts, the mindfulness trainings. We practice the same kind of precepts. 5 mindfulness trainings, 14 mindfulness trainings. The monastics have their 10 trainings, the 250 trainings, 380 trainings. So that is about Shila, giới. We practice the same kind of mindfulness training. Giới hòa đồng tu. So the mindfulness training is our language. We speak to each other with our language of the precepts. When you walk, when you cook, when you garden, you all try to protect life, and that is our language. And when you practice protecting life like that, that is a means of communication. And your younger brothers, your younger sisters see you do that, and then they learn to do that. It's not just by talking that you can communicate, by living your life. It's like in the family. If the father knows how to take care of the mother, if the mother knows how to speak to the father with a loving language, then naturally the children will learn. They learn just by looking, by observing. And it's true that that family is the first school to learn love. And parents should be teachers on love by the way they treat each other, they speak to each other, and so on. So parents are teachers, are professors on love. And the first university you go to is your family. And when they grow up, they naturally do the same. That is a good continuation. They will naturally treat their partner in the same way. If parents smoke, and then children will naturally smoke. If parents drink alcohol, children will do. So the language we use is language of Shila, the mindfulness trainings. And if you have received the 5 trainings, if you have put into practice the 5 trainings, you know that all the 5 trainings are about love. The first is about love. The second is about love. The third is also about love. The practice of true love in a very concrete terms. The 5 trainings could not be seen as restrictions. That is the real practice of love. And it's very wise of you to present the 5 trainings as a practice of love, protecting, healing, transforming. And that is why if the mindfulness trainings are not practiced, are not lived on our daily basis, that group of people could not be called a Sangha. When I first came to the West, I visited a number of communities, and I saw that they practice very hard sitting and having retreats and practice very hard. But as far as Sila is concerned, I don't see it as the ground of practice. That is why many scandals happened in the community, Zen centers and so on. There is alcoholism, there is sex, there is things like that. And the relationship between teacher and disciples is not very clear. There's a lot of scandals. And by holding retreats and establishing Plum Village, we have had an influence on the situation. And now the practice of the Shila in these particular centers has been improved a lot. So we are together, not because we live just live in the same place, but we speak the same kind of language of the precepts. So the Sangha become one because they act as one body. That is why the trainings are so important. Without the trainings, you cannot hold that group of people as Sangha. And if the trainings are observed, you can see that the Sangha has Buddha nature in it, because it has Dharma nature. Because the triple training is Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna. Giới định tuệ. And in Plum Village, we have made it clear that Shila, mindfulness training, is equal to Smriti. Niệm. Because Sila is nothing except mindfulness. Because you are mindful, that is why you don't do that. You only do this. And that is why the mindfulness training as presented in Plum Village is presented in such a way that help people to see that is a practice of mindfulness, aware of the suffering caused by the killing in the world. I am determined not to kill and to try my best in order to protect life. And that is the practice of mindfulness. You begin by the word aware of the suffering caused by the killing. So it is very clear that mindfulness trainings are just mindfulness. And the word training is taken from shiksha, which means học. And học here does not mean to study, but to train, to practice. In French, entraînement, to train. This is a practice, not just learning. So the three shiksha is mindfulness, concentration, insight. Sometimes that mindfulness training, concentration, insight. The triple training, that is the heart of the Buddhist tradition. So if Sila become the backbone of the Sangha, and the Sangha is a true Sangha that carries the living Buddha and the living Dharma. That is why when you look at the group of people, and if you see that the mindfulness trainings are honored, are observed, you know that this is a real Sangha, authentic Sangha, chân tăng, a true Sangha. True Sangha. And a true Sangha always carry the Buddha and the Dharma in it. And that is why the king of Sravasti, the king of Kosala, while meeting the Buddha for the last time, said that, dear teacher, every time I see your Sangha moving around, I have more respect and trust and love for you. Because the Sangha is really the masterpiece of the Buddha. It's not easy to build a Sangha, and you know that. But there must be practices that help us to build a Sangha, because building a beautiful Sangha can bring you a lot of happiness, a lot of satisfaction. Even the Buddha had a lot of difficulties building his Sangha, you know that. The Sangha was split 2 times in his life. And when there's difficulties within your Sangha, you should say that, well, who am I to do better than the Buddha? The Buddha did have his difficulties. The third element is the material comfort. The facilities, like a house, like a bath, toilet, campus, garden, food, well, we share together. And that is why we should think of Sangha as a community where people share. The tractor belongs to everyone. The car belongs to everyone. The money in the bank belongs to everyone, not to one person. And the telephone, the computer also belong to the Sangha and not to individuals. You know that in Plum village, the monastics do not have a private bank account. No one of us has. And no one of us has a private car, private telephone. We do use computers. We do have our email address. We have access to the internet. But in Plum village, whenever you need to go to the internet, you have to be accompanied by a second body. You never go to the internet alone. That is part of the Shila. Even if you go to the internet to get a Dharma talk, you have to go with another brother or sister if you are a sister. It's like you go to the supermarket, you never go alone. And that is the kind of practice that help protect you, and not to limit your freedom, but to help you to retain your freedom, because you risk losing your freedom if you get caught. There are many dangerous areas in the internet, and as parents we are worried about our children, and we don't know what to do. But in Plum Village we do like that. You cannot go to the internet alone. That's not because people do not want you to have freedom, but people want you to retain your freedom. If you are addicted to something, like opium, like drugs, like alcohol, you lose your freedom. So it's not because of the fact that we do not want them to have freedom, but we want to help them to retain the freedom they have. And therefore there must be a kind of Dharma discussion in the family, among members of the family. So Plum Village is a family, so we sit down and discuss about protecting each other. And the family can be transformed into a Sangha with loving speech, with deep listening. We can talk to each other on equal basis. We do not use the authority of a father or of a mother, but we use the power of our understanding and love in order to talk to each other. And if the children understand why we should do like that, now they will accept very well. If you want to set up a breathing room, a tiny meditation hall in your family, you might like to ask the ideas of your children. You might like to sit down and talk about how wonderful to have the time to sit down and to listen to the bell and to breathe in and out, especially when in the family the atmosphere is not calm enough. Someone suffers, someone is irritated. So all the practice can help bring about a more peaceful atmosphere to the family. So all of that can be discussed in the context of the family. And if you are a school teacher, you can very well transform your class into a Sangha. Discuss with your students. And you can create the spirit of brotherhood, sisterhood in your school. And by that way you help the children, you help their family. And they may bring the practice back to their family. Henry Kikung is a Dharma teacher of Plum Village. He taught in high school in Toronto. And he was very fond of fishing. And he was surprised that all his friends went fishing with him, but no one catch as much fish, as many fish as he did. So after his first retreat in Plum, he came home very different. He walked into the class mindfully, quite different from before. And he went to the blackboard and he erased the things in a mindful way. And his students look at him and said, "Strange. Our professor of mathematics looks strange today." He used to call him Papa because he's a loving teacher. Even sometimes he got very angry and he can throw a piece of chalk directly to the student and call them idiot. But they still love him because he's really care and love his students. So the student said, "Papa, are you sick? Are you okay?" He said, "No, I'm okay." "Why you don't move like that?" "Because I practice mindfulness." And then he began to establish some kind of practice in his school. And there was no bell of mindfulness, so he suggested each of 15 minutes, one student will clap his hand like this, and everyone stop and practice mindful breathing in and out. So he began to transform his class into a Sangha. And they love it because the students took turn in order to give the bell of mindfulness. And the whole class made progress very quickly on the path of studies that surprised many other classes. So very soon, the whole school adopted the same kind of practice. And then when Henry wanted to retire, they asked him to stay on for a number of years. Before the practice, he used to shout, even insult. And he can mark on the exercise something like, "You are stupid." But after that, he changed. And when homework was not well done, he wrote this: "You do not understand, it's my fault." So a deep transformation took place. And he was able to bring it into his class and his family. He's still alive, and if you belong to the Sangha of Toronto, you know him, of course. He came back for several other retreats. He took the 14 mindfulness trainings, and finally he became a Dharma teacher. So you may like to transform your school, your class into a Sangha. And of course there are mindfulness trainings that you can practice together as a class. And you may set up the kind of rule or disciplines after having discussed with your students. It does not have to be exactly like the 5 mindfulness trainings. The root temple during my 40 years of absence did not practice like that, because many monks has their scooter, motorbike. Many monks have their portable telephone. A few years ago, we went to Seoul in South Korea. We visited the monastic university, and the rector and the president asked us about how to deal with these problems. Internet, because all students in that are monastics. Problems like internet, motorcycle, things like that. At that time, the revised Pratimoksha Plum village was already ready. So we said that we have the answer. The Pratimoksha, the monastic code, was ready in English, because we have worked on that several years in a row in order to update, to renew the Pratimoksha. You know that in Vietnam we follow the school of Dharma Gupta, and Pratimoksha, monastic code. If you compare to the monastic code of the Theravada school, you see that they are almost identical. So we have worked hard on updating the monastic code, and we have put in precepts concerning the internet, telephone, and so on. So we presented to him one copy of that, and we urged him to translate into Korean, and they must do that. But we don't know why up to today it has not been published in the Korean language. We guess that, well, there are so many conservative people who don't want, who are not ready to accept the idea that why you have to change the code of the Buddha. Who are you to modify, to change the Pratimoksha? You know very well that before passing away, the Buddha told Ananda that the Pratimoksha should be made more simple. And during the first Buddhist conference, revising the teaching and the precepts, Ananda reported that. And Kashyapa and others asked about the details, what the Buddha had to say about what kind of precept could be removed, what could be made simple. And then Ananda said, well, the Lord was so tired, so I did not ask. And that is why they let it be like that for 2,500 years. The wish of the Buddha is not fulfilled. So I have told many friends that if they ask you who are you to have the right to change the Buddha's Pratimoksha, and you should answer like this: we are his students, we are his disciples, and that's why we have to help him. Because if he lived in our time, he would do that also. And the Buddha needs intelligent disciples. Do you agree? And you have to learn and to practice with your intelligence. And this is very important. So there are many kinds of comforts in today's life. And the monastics and the lay practitioners might be caught in them and lose their practice. And that is why we had to reflect deeply on the comforts that are available in the Sangha. In Plum Village, there are a number of television sets, but our brothers and sisters use them only for viewing the Dharma talks, the video tapes. So we are trying to make good use of these things. And you know, telephone meditation. There is a telephone, but you should use the telephone only to practice loving speech. Before you touch the telephone in order to compose the number, you are invited to practice breathing in and out mindfully with egata, to calm yourself down and to make the vow that the words you are going to say will have the power to restore communication, to help the other person before you dial the number. And if you hear your telephone ringing, you should not run away to the phone. You have to preserve your dignity. You have to stay where you are, and you practice mindful breathing and using the telephone sound like the bell of mindfulness. Because every time the telephone rings, it causes a little bit of vibration in yourself. Who is calling? Good news or bad news? So you are not very peaceful. In order to deal with that, you stay where you are and you practice mindful breathing. Listen, this telephone sound brings me back to my true home. You enjoy breathing. And if the other person really has something important to tell you, she could wait at least after the second or the third ring. And then continue your breathing, and you go to the telephone like a free person with all your dignity. And if both of you are mindful and smiling, and then the quality of the conversation must be good. Imagine everyone in New York City practice telephone meditation. It will be a much lovelier place to live in. It's possible for us to walk in New York mindfully, to use the telephone mindfully, to ride on the subway mindfully also. We don't need to get out of New York in order to practice mindfulness. That is called engaged Buddhism. Everywhere, at any time. The brother in the upper Hamlet do not have enough money to build a larger meditation hall. We enjoy very much the meditation hall in the lower Hamlet, and we want to have something like that up here with the brothers. So when when Dr. Modi proposed to make a film of from the book of Five Clouds, a number of us said maybe you have some money from that. We can sell the right of the book in order to get some money to build a meditation hall in the Upper Hamlet. But when we meet the team, we know that we should not take any cent of. We want to offer white cloud as a gift to the new generation who needs so much to hear, to receive the message of the Buddha. So it was a big surprise that the film team hear that we don't want to take any money. We want to help. And our request is only that the producer, the screenwriter, and the actors have the time to practice mindful walking, mindful sitting, listen deeply in order to have some real substance of the Buddha within, so that when they act, something true can be expressed. And they agree. And because we did not take any money, that is why we are in a very good position to help the film go in the direction we want to go. If we got something like $5 million, we know that that may be very dangerous to Plum Village. Because money can be dangerous also. It's like a weapon. And we are still very happy not having the big meditation hall, but we can breathe and smile and waiting for another occasion, because the film can be a Dharma talk to many people today. That is a kind of investment. And we see it as an offering made to the Buddha and to the future generations, because our time need very much to hear and to see the message of the Buddha. So we, as some members of Sangha, we should be able to enjoy the comfort afforded by the Sangha. But we should also know that according to the Buddhist spirit, you should never have everything so plenty. As a novice, I already learned that. And this is the principle tam thường. Tam thường bất túc. Túc means plenty, sufficient, a lot. Bất túc means something not so plenty. You still need a little bit more. Tam thường means the three daily, as food, shelter, and cloth. The three things. Never too full. If you eat, and if you eat up to 90% of your need, that is better than if you eat 100%. Leave something 5%. That's an art. And as a doctor, you know that this is very wise. Never eat to your full. Just leave some room, some room in your stomach. And this is very wise. And when you live in a house, that house should not be too comfortable. And when you are ordained as a novice, you know that the life of a monk should be simple. And a novice, a monk, is not supposed to sit on a luxurious chair, to lie on a luxurious bed. From time to time, it happened that we have to stay in hotels because there are no temples around. And our brothers and sisters used to sleep on the floor instead of sitting on the bed because they want to practice the precepts. And that is also true concerning what we wear. We should be clean and neat in our way of wearing clothes, but we should not buy and make fantastic, luxurious kind of clothes. And you know, you have noticed that in Plum village we very seldom wear our sangati. We use it only for reciting the precepts, transmitting the precepts. So the brown color that our tradition adopted is the color of the peasants, of the farmers, of the poor people. It has the taste of humility, frugality in it. In Europe, maybe the equivalent to the brown may be the blue, because workers they wear a blue. So we adopted this color because in Vietnam the peasants, the farmers, they wear this. One of the advantages is that they did not have soap. And this color will not reveal so much dirt. So not only we share the same material resources, but we should make sure that the simple lifestyle should be maintained. This is very important. If you are thinking of a Sangha, even a lay residential Sangha, think of that. You have to live more simply than the people out there. It's very important. It is one of characteristics of the tradition, living simply. And when you live simply, you don't have to work too hard. You don't have to get a very big salary. A small salary is enough. And you have more time to practice, to build a Sangha, to take care, and to help. It's very important. Although it is material, but it is very important. We can communicate, we can share our experiences, our insights, our learning. We listen to our brothers and sisters in order to learn from them. We listen to our teacher to learn from him or her. And in Dharma discussion, we really share, not on the level of the intellect only, but on the level of our true experiences. So if you have gone through a period of difficulty, you may like to tell your brothers and your sisters how you do it, so that they can learn from you. So that is sharing. In a true Sangha, such a sharing should be permanent. A Dharma discussion, sitting down in a group to share, this is a very important practice. Not only you share about your suffering and how you overcome it, but you also share your happiness and how you got it and how you keep it. And that is why one Sangha member can represent the whole Sangha. It's like in our body, each cell represents all the cells. The genetical heritage we get is in every cell. And that is why cloning is possible. You can reproduce, you can make another body just by using one cell of the body. Because the teaching is that the one contains the all. The whole can be found in the one. Usually, when you remove one cell from the body and expose it outside, after some time it will dry up, it will die. It's very difficult for a cell to survive alone. That is why a practitioner should be aware that without his or her Sangha, he will die or she will die as a practitioner soon. That is why if you go somewhere, you should carry the Sangha with you, inside of you. That's what happened to Thay 40 years ago when he had to get out of the country alone, calling for peace. And he was not allowed to go home. Thay did not dry up like a cell outside because he was so, he carried his Sangha within. And as soon as he realized that he did not have the permission to go home, he began right away to build a Sangha in Europe. And you, my friend, you are the continuation of that Sangha. So Exile has its positive outcome also. Our Sangha is now present a little bit everywhere, even in the Middle East. And because you are capable of bringing the Sangha inside of you, and that's why you don't dry up. And you are capable of starting a new Sangha where you are. Sangha as a refuge is very important. Without the Sangha, the Buddha and the Dharma will go away. That is why Sangha building is a very noble task. And you might devote your life. You might like to devote your life in the work of Sangha building. You continue the Buddha in that way, in very concrete terms. And then ý hòa đồng việc. Ý hòa is ideas. We have ideas as how the Sangha should be happy. I have my ideas and you have your ideas. And conflict may arise if we cling too much to our own idea. You cannot build a Sangha if you are caught too much in yourself. If you want to be a leader, you want people to follow your idea only. You cannot build a Sangha like that. You have to listen to each member of the Sangha in order to know their need, the suffering. And the Sangha, the work of Sangha building is based on that kind of mutual understanding. So we come together in order to exchange our view, our idea, to come to a collective view. And based on that collective view, you build the Sangha. So if you have had difficulties in Sangha building, maybe that is because in the Sangha there are two strong personalities who want us to follow his or her idea only. The Buddha did have the capacity to listen to his disciples. And Sangha builders like Shariputra, Moggallana, Ananda, well, they are very crucial, instrumental in helping the Buddha to set up the Sangha. No matter from what background you come from, the Sangha is harmonious. It's like all the rivers, when they come to the ocean, they become one. So in the Sangha of the Buddha, there were people in royal families, there were politicians, there were ex-politicians, businessmen, scavengers, the people who had been slaves before were accepted into the holy community, and they are completely equal in the community. A bandit, a serious killer like Angulimala, who after having been accepted by the Sangha became a good element of the Sangha. And King Prasenajithu had tried to find him and kill, and now has to bow to him because he has become a member of the Sangha. I think in the film we should tell the story of Angulimala, the terrorist, and how the Buddha converted a terrorist. In the Sangha, there is a procedure called Sangha Karma. In order to reach an agreement, we may use that procedure, Sangha Karma, act of the Sangha. And we begin like by the Sangha facilitator asking this question. Is the Sangha is the Sangha summoned? Is Sangha present? The whole Sangha has what is the gather. The Sangha is the Sangha gather tăng tập phổ. In my tradition, we used to say tăng tập phổ. It means has the Sangha gathered. And the answer, Tang Yi Tap, the Sangha has gathered. That's the first question and first answer. The second question, Hoa Her Phu, is there harmony in the Sangha? Answer is hoa, herb, there is harmony. And what is the third question is, what is the purpose of the Sangha gathering today? And the answer, the Sangha gathered today in order to do the Sangha Karma concerning such or such matter. And then a proposal is made representing the collective insight of the Sangha. Has the entire community assembled? Yes, the entire community has assembled. Is there harmony in the community? Yes, there is harmony. Why has the community assembled today? The community has assembled to perform the Sangha Karma of transmitting the 14 mindfulness trainings and so on. And then the proposal is made, reflecting the collective thinking. And after having read the proposals, the Sangha convener will ask, that is the proposal. Dear Sangha, is that proposal clear and complete enough? And then the answer, yes, it's clear and complete enough. And then he will proceed with asking this question. Those of you in the Sangha who agree with the proposal should remain silent. Those of you who do not agree, it's time for you to speak up. This is the first time of asking. And you leave 1 minute of silence. And then after that period of silence, the Sangha convener will ask the next question. Those of you who agree with the proposal, please remain silent. Those of you who do not agree, please speak up. This is the second time of asking. And there will be a period of silence. And he asked for the third time. And after 3 periods of silence, he said that the Sangha has remained silent during the 3 times of asking. That means that this proposal has been accepted by the Sangha. Thank you. And that is the Sangha Karma procedure. And that is a practice that began in the time of the Buddha to now. So democracy is something very has been a tradition in the Buddhist community a long time ago. There's difference within Sangha Karma and voting. Because we organize Sangha Karma only when we are sure that everyone agrees. Before that, we don't organize. We continue to discuss. We continue to talk to each other. And at least when the very big majority are for it, 2 or 3 who are left have to go along, because that is the tradition. So even if you are not completely happy, you remain silent, because you know that is to please the Sangha. You are a very small minority. And that is why Sangha Karma is based on the spirit of harmony and consensus. So it's quite different from voting. Voting is only for the majority. This is a complete consensus. And when you are a very small minority, you know that to follow the Sangha is important, because the Sangha eye is supposed to be brighter than the individual eyes. The collective insight should always be better than the insight of one person. And if you really take refuge in Sangha, and then you are ready also to accept the Sangha decision for you, because the Sangha think that that is the best for you, even if you still have some kind of resentment. And that is the real meaning of taking refuge in the Sangha. So for the time being, you just go along with the Sangha decisions, and maybe later you can you might have chances in order to make another proposal for another discussion. So peace is possible because of this practice of sharing together. So communication is absolutely necessary in order to have peace, harmony in the Sangha. We know that the cells in our body, they communicate with each other very well. And they use all kinds of means, neurotransmitters and so on. There are sensory cells that work on a permanent basis. And that is why if there is good communication in our body, well, our body is healthy. The same thing is true within the Sangha. If communication is good, the Sangha is happy. And that is why we can communicate, we can practice communicating. And we do not just communicate with our speech, but our daily life, our way of practicing the precepts and so on. When we hear the bell, we come home to ourselves and enjoy mindful breathing. And suddenly we become one. That is a form of communication. You might be talented and you might like to serve the Sangha with your talents. But you should not lose yourself in your work, because communication may become difficult between you and other members of the Sangha. So integration is that. Yesterday we spoke about integration and differentiation. Differentiation is good, but if without integration, you lose yourself, even if you have a lot of talent. So to be with the Sangha while eating, while walking, while sitting, while working is very important, because these moments are moments of communication, even if you don't communicate with the word. And many people communicate with the word a lot, but there's no real communication. We know that in our time there are lots of means for communication: email, fax, telephone, everything. But communication between father and son and mother and daughter, husband and wife, and so on has become most difficult in our time. So we should not trust too much on talking. We have other means to communicate, and living together, sharing together is a very wonderful way to communicate, and that is the foundation of the harmony and the happiness in the Sangha. So the Buddha has established the 6 concords in order to build his Sangha. He can still learn a lot from it. He did not have a telephone, he did not have fax. And the last one, but not the least one, is khẩu hòa. Vô tránh. that loving speech and deep listening. That's the fourth mindfulness training. You listen and you use loving speech. This is very important. You can tell the other person, you can tell the Sangha which is in your heart. You have the right, you have the duty even to tell the Sangha what you really feel. But you should use only the gentle kind of speech. And the fourth mindfulness training is not to cause your community to break because of your way of talking. And this is a very important practice. And the big brothers and sisters have to set examples for their younger brothers and sisters by the way they speak to each other, the father and the mother also. When I was in India, I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Narayan, who was vice chairperson of India and chairman of the National Assembly. And we discussed a little bit on this, on the life of the Parliament, about deep listening and loving speech. So I proposed to him that every time the atmosphere in the Parliament gets very hot, and then we may use the bell of mindfulness and asking people to calm down and to practice mindful breathing in and out. He listened very deeply. The first thing I told him is that, thank you, Mr. Vice President. You are very busy today. I know you have to install 3 ministers in the cabinet, but you still have time to meet a monk. He said, we should always have time to meet a monk. And I proposed to him that beginning is session of the Parliament, we can make a kind of meditation, reading like this, something like this. Dear colleagues in the National Assembly, we have been elected by our people in order to share with each other our experiences and our insight. If we listen to each other calmly, and we speak to each other calmly, and then we can share a lot of things, and we can arrive at making the kind of law that will protect our people, our nation, and make people happy. So let us practice loving speech and deep listening during this session, this kind of practice. Although it comes from a Buddhist background, but you can see that it has the universal value. We have seen sessions in the Parliament that are very, it's like a storm, and people may hit each other, and they may use a chair in order to. That happens. Ten days later, we had a retreat in Chennai, Madras. And one of the participants handed to me a newspaper in which in which we learned that Mr. Narayan has established a committee taking care of these matters in the National Assembly. And the chair of the committee was a former prime minister. So he really took it into heart. And later on, he became president of India. He had asked Thay to come back to address the Parliament of India, but he didn't have the time before he became president. The practice of loving speech is so important. And if you have so much anger and hate and the wrong perception and violence in you, it's quite a challenge. And that is why the practice of loving speech should go along with the practice of embracing the anger, the fear in oneself. And practicing loving speech is to practice the practice of Avalokiteshvara, listen deeply, and using loving speech, you can remove a lot of suffering. There are those of us who have the time to listen to friends who come to Plum Village. We know that listening like that will help them suffer less. We are capable of talking to them with loving kindness. And we have been able to help many couples, including father and son, mother and daughter, to reconcile. So this practice is very crucial. And in order to build a Sangha, well, loving speech is very crucial. So that is what the Buddha proposed as the foundation for Sangha building. And when a Sangha is practicing Sangha, and then there is harmony, the insight of no self is realized. And each member of the Sangha represents the whole Sangha. Wherever you go, whatever you do it for the Sangha. You say it for the Sangha. In 1989, we had a retreat for psychotherapists in Colorado. On the Rocky Mountains. And responding to Free's Pearl's statement, you are you, and I am me. And if by chance we meet, that's wonderful. If not, it could not be helped. So I responded like this by a poem, you are me, and I am you. Isn't it obvious that we inter-are? You cultivate the flower in yourself, so that I will be beautiful. And I transform the garbage in myself so you won't have to suffer. I support you, you support me. I am this world to offer you peace, and you are in this world to bring me joy. That is to apply the insight of non-self in Sangha building. Those of us who still have some difficulty with the expression no-self, please remember that no self is not the ultimate absolute truth, because the Buddha has said that the raft is not the shore. You have to handle my teaching, the Buddha said, with skillfulness. So non-self is is an instrument for Sangha building, for healing. And scientists of today, when they look into our body, they don't really see a self, a boss. They see only a community of cells. And no one played the role of a boss and giving orders at all. And when we look at our body, we see that it is a real community, a community of trillions of billions of cells, and not just human cells. There are many, many non-human cells in our body. And biologists of our time have told us that the number of non-human cells in us are much more numerous than the human cells, maybe 10 times. Think of the mucus in our nose and the population of bacteria in our mouth. The population of the bacteria in our mouth is larger than the population of France. And there's so many of them in the intestinal tract. And without them, we will suffer. The intestinal flora. Well, there are many friendly living beings that help us to make things that are crucial to our nourishment and healing. Vitamin B and so on. So when we look at our body, we have to see that we are a community moving around like that, not a self. And non-human cells are also very helpful. If we look into the nucleus of the cell, we see the mitochondria. They are transmitted to us by our mother. They are considered to be the powerhouse. Without them, we cannot lift our hand. ATP, the power generated that we can make use, is from them. It's not us. Their DNA is quite different from ours. They are with us as symbiotes. And that is why looking deeply as a scientist, you can very see the nature of no-self. And that is why in the realm of psychotherapy, the insight no-self can really help. And that is for our friends who are therapists to explore. And first of all, we have to remember that anyway, no-self should be considered to be an instrument. We are going to have a Sangha fair the day after tomorrow in the lower Hamlet. And that is an opportunity for us to talk together about and share our Sangha building experiences. It's wonderful. I think from now on, each retreat should have a Sangha fair session. Because we are all inspired to set up Sanghas a little bit everywhere in the world. Because everyone needs to take care, to take refuge in the Sangha. If there is a good Sangha, and then the Buddha and the Dharma will be available also. So please don't be discouraged with your Sangha building work. We are there to support you. And we may establish a kind of network in order to support each other. Today after breakfast, we shall do walking meditation to a temple nearby at the foot of the hill called Sangha, down the mountain. Thầy Pháp Sơn is the abbot of that temple. We have a chance to visit the temple. This new meditation hall. We shall have a picnic lunch on the grass. I hope that it will not rain. So let us enjoy our walk, our walking down there, and our picnic lunch. I learned from Sister Gina that the OI members will have lunch together down there also.